We're joined by Camille Pace, who's the Division Chair for Business and Professional Studies at Georgia Highlands College, as well as Jennifer Hicks, who's the Director of Academic Success at Georgia Highlands College. And from Georgia State University, we've got Carol Cohen. She's the Assistant Vice President for University Advisement. And then Donna Brulette, who is the Department Chair for Mathematics at Georgia State, I believe, Perimeter College. So I'm going to start out with a question that I'm going to ask y'all, and you know, sort of any of you can answer, but just kind of give me an idea from at your institutions, where are you with the current implementation of the stats pathway, and how many students do you have in it who are currently using elementary stats as an Area A2 math?
Okay. I'm happy to start off if you want me to.
Thank you.
Okay, so I always will. So at Georgia State, we really jumped in full force, and we moved, our stats into Area A in pretty much all of our majors and pathways that were non-STEM. So there were a couple, I think, some specialty programs at Perimeter, but we made the move to just add it in for Area A across the board, and just kind of just jump in full force. We like to look at data. We want to wait and see when we get some data to see if we need to make some tweaking there or pull it back a little bit. We have approximately, and I'm sure Donna can add to this in a little bit, that I think we have over 1,300, I think we're around 1,380 students in 1401 at Perimeter. And of that group, about just under 300, I think about in the 250s that are in the 0996, the pathway. So we did jump in. We felt like we wanted to kind of roll it out. I will have to be honest, I'm one of the people that was a big proponent of moving 1401. I'm happy to see it in there. And so I was happy we were able to kind of make that move as quickly and as forcefully as we did. So so that's where we are at Georgia State. I don't know if Donna, if you want to add any more to the numbers, if you have anything. Am I right on those numbers, by the way?
Sorry, I wasn't unmuted. No, I think you're exactly right. About 293 were in the 996 of the 1,380. So about 21% of the students in statistics were also in the 996. The other piece I looked at was that from fall of 2019 to fall of 2020, we did have about a 10% shift between the students that were in 1001 to those that were in 1401. There was an increase of about 10. So I think a lot of people did take advantage of it, of choosing that 1401. Although, as you know, we've never had a prerequisite for 1401 at Georgia State. So that really, there could have been some students that weren't using as Area A because I don't think they have to declare quite yet.
Right.
This is Jennifer. I'll jump in and follow Carol about the pathways, and we kind of did the same thing. We jumped in our pathway maps and curriculum, we put 1401 as an Area A option in all of our non-STEM. We do have some divisions or that prefer other math courses, but that is an option for all of the students who are in the non-STEM pathways. And I'm going to hope Camille has some numbers because I didn't pull those numbers. So I'll let her jump in and talk about how many students are taking the courses this semester.
So I didn't pull the numbers because unfortunately we switched schools in the summer. Statistics, those classes went to the School of Business and we moved away from mathematics. So we've had it's been an interesting semester. But what we have seen is we do have students who are enrolled in our 996. Our numbers are low, but we also have students who will start and take Math 2401 starting in spring, which is our second stats class. So we have fully developed that stats pathway where they go from 1401 to 2401, and we are encouraging them to do that in their first year if they're a non-STEM major. And we have seen an uptick in classes. I know I've had to schedule more 1401s in the fall than I usually do in the spring. So.
And now I'm muted. Thanks. So how does that compare to your expectations? Which I know I didn't tell you I was going to ask you, but I'm actually curious about that. Like, how, when you started with this, how does that compare with where you expected you'd be?
I think, go ahead, Jennifer. I think we're right on schedule because, no offense, Jennifer and I are tenacious. We're going to get it done. and we were given the deadline, we knew we were going to hit it.
Yeah, I think I agree, Camille. I mean, I think that the lower numbers in our support courses, it's an education piece that we need to do more of with our advisors. And when I say our advisors, our faculty advise as well. So it goes beyond just an advising department. I think our professional advisors are aware of the changes and know what's going on. I think we can work harder to make sure all of our advisors know what the options are for students. But I think we're right where we expected to be. I don't think we expected this fall to have blowout numbers for this new combo of courses. The first semester, a large percent of our students at Highlands are learning support students. So that's really kind of where we focused, was that the co-rec model of those two courses. And it's challenging to get that culture shift away from the other two paths that we've had historically, the 1001 and the college algebra. So it will take some time, but I think that we're making good headway.
So can you sort of talk about the way in which the advisors and the programs sort of work together on this discussion? Like how does the communication work? And I guess at this point, before I go further on this, like sort of let me step back a bit. We've got a good sized audience. For those of you who are at institutions where you've rolled this out as a prototype, how has this process either met your expectations or failed to meet? Where are you in terms of like how you thought the students would enroll with this? You go ahead and unmute yourself if you want.
This is Elizabeth at Dalton State. We rolled it out with the co-curricular also, but we pre-enroll our incoming freshman students. So we put them into it. Advising had to kind of drive the wheel as far as getting departments to say they would count it as Area A. I'm not sure that's really the way it should be, us driving the curriculum, but that's what happened. In order for us to get students in it, we had to go find some departments. And we're a very STEM, health professions heavy institution. And so we didn't have very many who were willing. Only some of our liberal arts, which is a small portion of our freshman students. So we've only got about 14. We've only got one section of the co-curricular 1401.
All right. Well, so let's sort of jump right on top of that. So Elizabeth noted that it was advisors driving that conversation. So for Carol and for Jennifer, who are sitting in that advisor role, how did that conversation go, and sort of where did that conversation, and then sort of from for Donna and for Camille, who are coming at it from the discipline side, you own the course, but you don't necessarily own the program that's that would be the end user. So how did those conversations, how did they go, and are they the conversations you? And if not, how would that conversation get shaped?
Well, I mean, for us, we're pretty fortunate that we have this working math committee that I think Donna and I have seen each other more of the past couple of years than ever before, because there's been so much to talk about, and we have representation from Atlanta and perimeter administrators, and I serve as the advising person, and we're able to kind of start some of these conversations. And so we also bring in our Arts and Sciences College, which is the largest college, and they can drive a lot of this for us. But I think we work so much in meta majors that it was kind of an easy push, now that we've been dealing with meta majors and then the non-STEM versus STEM. And so I think it was not a difficult conversation. I'll let Donna speak a little bit to the faculty side, but kind of one of the things that came out of this for us is that it was really decided that course demand is always an issue, faculty having the right number of faculty, and we did pull back on math modeling. And so I think that was a decision that was made when we were really trying to roll this out correctly. To have 4 options would be fantastic, but to have that faculty that can do college algebra and 1001 and 1101 and now 1401, I think kind of one of the kind of concessions was is that we would pull back from math modeling while we roll this out. Now, I'm sure our hope, and I'll let Donna speak to that, is, if we can kind of reintroduce that once we get our staffing up and more opportunity for that. But I do think it wasn't as difficult a conversation at Georgia State. I think we were kind of ready, kind of already poised to want to do this. We really like the versatility of 1401 being able to be used in multiple places. But I don't want to go without saying that, math modeling that was kind of they're the ones that kind of, that course took the hit a little bit, that that we are not offering that right now. So I don't know, Donna, if you want to add to that a little bit about how that came about.
Well, the math modeling was only offered on the downtown campuses, and the downtown campus is not accepting students that need the co-requisite. So it was easier to implement down there. At the perimeter campuses, it's harder to find the staff to teach the statistics than it is some of the other classes. But once we got that built up and had the people that are willing to teach it, I think there's 2 points from the math faculty point of view. One is that they would like more interaction with the other majors because they'd like to be able to develop classes that are more tuned to psychology or sociology or political science, and kind of incorporate it more so the students felt the effect of having the class in Area A rather than just calling it Area A. And then I also think there are some that are excited about coming up with a new Area D class that will also work for that. So it's a matter of process, but of course, with all the things that have been going on this year, we haven't been able to do as much as we'd like. But I do feel that it's coming, and I think we're on the right path.
I'll let Camille talk about how we kind of rolled this out. I think it's the opposite from what Elizabeth was saying. The advising department didn't take this and run with it. It was Camille. She was the boots on the ground talking to the faculty members in other areas and the point people for each of our pathways. She and I were talking the entire time on the back end about how those conversations were going and what we may need to do moving forward. But Camille, you jump in and talk about how you got the course in Area A for our pathways.
So when the initiative came down from Dr. Denley, we went to the deans of the other divisions and schools, and we talked to them about putting this in Area A. And I completely understand, because statistics sometimes is not seen for what it can be. It's just seen as a different class. So for me, it was a lot of re-education, because we in our introductory stats class do a lot of critical thinking, process mapping, high impact practices, because I'm really teaching the students how to think critically under the guise of statistics. So then we were showing the other disciplines like psychology, sociology, criminal justice, how that would benefit their students. And while we do have a stats class, a second stats class in the Area D, I need to do more to get that message out there, tell them what we're doing, how it is very similar to the first class, but we're jumping in a deeper depth of knowledge, more of that critical thinking. They actually have an applied project that takes them through a huge data analysis, and how it gets them that hands-on experience they all need to to think statistically and to help in anything. I mean, I know we can't put it in STEM, but sometimes I think it would benefit our STEM majors to go through that critical thinking process.
So are there others in the audience, others in the group who've had sort of a process that rolled differently that they think either worked or that they have things that you can learn from?
Jonathan, it's Gerald Morris at Kennesaw State.
Hey.
I'm going to say we probably stumbled into it, if I can use that term. Largely because myself and two others are responsible for the learning support correct model. And as we're working our way through that, trying to get that in place and getting that up and running. And we were running into students who needed to take the correct courses. And one of the deans or chairs of mathematics asked, why aren't some of these kids taking statistics? Why don't we have them do it? So he asked the question. We all kind of looked at each other and went, there are no prerequisites. Why not? And that began to talk, I believe it was last spring. And he pushed with us for it. So it's now something that we've educated the advising community on, that if they're not a STEM major and their program does not require a specific math, they could go ahead and do statistics. So that's how we kind of got started, and we're trying to refine it. And we're actually almost finished with creating an entire pathway. We're just almost through our final approvals on the last course. So it's kind of been one of those things that I can say we stumbled on it by someone asking a simple question: why not?
And that question came from somebody in the discipline,
Somebody in the discipline.
in the program.
Correct.
Sharon asked a question in the chat. Are other disciplines departments accepting Math 1401 in Area A if the student changes to a non-STEM major? Sharon, can you unmute and explain what you mean?
Yes, I was just wondering about other disciplines accepting the statistics area A, whether they be, some people are just hardcore college algebra, math 1111. And I wanted to know if anybody else was having challenges with getting other disciplines to accept it.
Do you mean non-STEM? Does she mean non-STEM disciplines?
Yes, non-STEM. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. I think that when, like Camille mentioned, when we first had this conversation with the schools and the